As you know, the news about this meeting in Geneva has really attracted a lot of attention. Now, there are two analyses on this meeting. One group are saying that the gap is very wide. The differences are just way apart, and that's why they set up this meeting to see if they can narrow it. And another camp believes that maybe actually the gaps are not as wide, but still both sides want to guarantee that maybe by July 20th, the final agreement will be finalized. Which one of these two do you think is closer?
Well, there's a little bit of truth in both. There are some wide gaps in the declared positions of the two sides. But this team, this meeting, is a sign that both Iran and the United States are doing everything they can to make an agreement before July 20th. It shows the seriousness of effort. And everybody knows that there is a deal to be made. What we're now talking about is the price. If Iran is going to reduce to low numbers of centrifuges, how much sanctions relief do they get? How can Iran be assured that the sanctions will actually be lifted if they cut their centrifuge stockpile?
Given the fact that there isn't much time left until July 20th, do you think there's any hope that this meeting could salvage the talks?
This meeting by itself won't result in a deal, but what it's designed to do is to sort of clarify the parameters. The U.S. wants to tell Iran that it's very serious about this, and it wants to make sure that Iran understands that if it stays with its position to keep tens of thousands of centrifuges, there will be no deal. I think it's possible to hit that July 20th deadline. There may be a few days, a few weeks that go beyond that, but I don't anticipate these talks being kicked for another 6 months to the end of the year. It's in the interest of both sides to make a deal, and to make a deal now.
I don't know if you've heard or not, but Mr. Rouhani has said that the United States is the head of the village among this group of nations negotiating with Iran. The last Vienna talks ended with a big gap over Iran's missiles program. Some say that this issue was brought up a little too late in the discussions. Do you agree with that assessment?
It's clear that any deal is going to have to be a deal between the United States and Iran, even as it takes place in the context of the P5+1. But it's the U.S. and Iran that fundamentally have to come to an agreement. At this stage, there are many people on the outside of the negotiations who are trying to tack on new issues: ballistic missiles, human rights, relations between Iran and its neighbors. But the negotiations are not about that. They're about the nuclear issue itself. Ballistic missiles are not part of the negotiating mandate. There may be some understanding of ballistic missiles they reach in these negotiations, but I don't think it's going to be a major issue.
But I believe the United States has said that the nuclear talks should include everything related to that program and everything that is contained within the UN Security Council resolutions.
It's impossible to get an agreement on missiles in these talks. You'd be asking Iran to unilaterally give up a weapon that many of its neighbors have. It's possible to limit missiles in the Middle East, but that will have to be a regional discussion, not just with one country.
So you disagree with the U.S. standpoint that the missiles program should be brought up among these discussions?
I do. I think the U.S. I understand why the U.S. negotiators said that. They're under pressure from the U.S. Congress, but I don't think that particular demand is going to fly. You see, at this point in the negotiations, both sides are kind of staking out their extreme positions. Iran is saying it has to have tens of thousands of centrifuges. The U.S. is saying it has to get limits on ballistic missiles. But in the end, you'll see a narrowing. You'll see an agreement. The question is the price of each side. How much sanction relief is the U.S. willing to give? How low on the centrifuges will Iran go? The two are related. The more sanctions reliefs, the fewer number of centrifuges.
So given what you just said, how far apart do you think the two sides are right now?
There's going to be some tough negotiating ahead. Their declared positions are pretty far apart. But you know from the beginning of these negotiations that both sides were serious, and that's what makes them so unique. This is the first time since the formation of the Islamic Republic that both sides have been willing to discuss and negotiate in earnest. Rouhani needs a deal. He has to lift the sanctions to improve the economy. President Obama needs a deal. He has a lot of problems in the Middle East. Iran can help with a number of those problems. This is the key to more than just the nuclear issue. It's the key to a whole new strategic relationship with Iran.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sorry.